Hi, it's Mike from Dimensional Walking. And today I'm going to pose another question. And I like to pose questions because it brings people uh, together from a standpoint that a question creates answers, answers create discussion, and then we go from there. So, anyways, I like to pose questions. I found it very, very helpful. So, here's the question. In what ways were ancient civilizations more advanced than we are in present day? Okay. Got it? So, while ancient civilizations don't use terms like magnetic forces or anti-gravity, many of their practices, myths, and architectural feats suggest a profound understanding of natural energies and forces that modern science is only beginning to unravel. Okay? So, ancient cultures often describe the earth as a living entity with energy currents flowing through the earth or around the earth, encompassing the earth, and they are referred to as ley lines. Okay, I know you've all heard of ley lines. So they're believed to be channels of magnetic and spiritual energy. Sacred sites such as Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids, Machu Picchu, and this is just a few of them. There's many other these other structures, monument type things that are man-made, and they are either on or near, very near ley lines. Okay, so this suggests that the ancient builders may have had knowledge of this kind of electromagnetic, these electric magnetic forces. Okay, and then I'll give you a couple other examples. Another one is the Chinese feng shui. Okay, and I personally have done some of my own work on feng shui. I took several courses of it, and I really did enjoy it when I did. It was many years ago. I really enjoyed it, and I practiced it for years. And just like anything else, if you don't practice it, you kind of forget it, and you may not use it. But I really believe it's something to be looking at, and it's a very interesting subject. It really, really is. Um, so, anyways, this practice involves, of course, aligning buildings and objects on Earth, on Earth's magnetic field to harmonize this kind of energy flow we're talking about. It's not just a spiritual thing, it's just spatial awareness rooted in magnetism. Okay? Spatial awareness anchored, rooted in magnetism. Okay? And give you a couple of examples of the magnetism thing. So there are some temples, uh, Hindu temples, and Vishnu. Let's see how do you say it? Vishnu, um, Shastar, I believe, temples that are often built on where magnetic resonance is the strongest, believing that this strength is will enhance the spiritual experience. And then there was the Greeks, excuse me, and the Chinese that used something called the lodestone. And the lodestone is this kind of magnetized material, and they use it for navigation and deviation, uh, including an understanding. And this kind of showed the understanding, early understanding of magnetic attraction. Okay, excuse me again. Some people propose that the ancient structures may have been designed to harness and manipulate magnetic fields. Some examples of that is the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, which contains a lot of crystal, quartz, okay? Quartz crystal, but quartz, which is an element, of course, that is something that's called piezoelectric properties, which means it can generate electric charge when it's put under pressure. This has led to speculation that the pyramids, of course, are this functionally a kind of energy generator. Okay, so then let's talk a little bit about sacred science. This refers to the holistic knowledge of systems of these ancient cultures that have blended. disciplines such as astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and spirituality. These these were not considered separate disciplines. They were considered united under the belief that the cosmos were interconnected as a whole. Okay, I'll give you some examples of this. There's temples. The Egyptians believed one of the things that they were big into was the sacred geometry. So their temples and the pyramids reflect this kind of mathematical thing, which is, based on pi, based on the golden rule, which the golden rule, of course, is something that it appears throughout nature, but they used it in the building of their temples and their pyramids. And these ratios that I'm talking about, like the ratio of pi and the golden ratio, these were believed to be a resident are believed to be throughout the universe. And then we got the Mayas and the Mayan calendar and the Vedic calendars. These systems track the celestial cycles with astonishing precision, suggesting that an advanced understanding of time, gravity, and planetary motion. Okay. Then we got an interesting one. It's called alchemy. And I know everybody's heard about that. Of course, most people don't believe in alchemy exists, but I still believe that it's still something we as a modern society haven't really discovered yet. So the ancient alchemists believed that the transformation of matter was tied to a spiritual uh, evolution, let's call it, okay? Their texts often describe these processes that resemble quantum transmutation or energy manipulation. And that's how they created things. Whatever, one element into another element. Of course, there always was kind of a low value element into gold or something. But anyway, so they believed it and supposedly they did it. I don't know if we have any evidence to that, but maybe we just haven't found the evidence yet. So, sacred sciences also emphasizes resonance and vibration. The idea that everything is a frequency is echoed throughout modern physics today through things like string theory and quantum mechanics. Ancient chants, mantras, and rituals were designed to align human consciousness with these universal vibrations. And it's also called, of course, this harmonic resonance. Um, so, moving right along. So, let's talk a little bit about anti-gravity. So, it is often dismissed as, of course, science fiction, but their ancient texts and archaeological anomalies suggest that past civilizations, may have had methods that did defy gravity, or at least reduce its effects. Um, so, there's the Viman of India. They had these flying chariots described in the Vedas, in the book of the Vedas, where it's said to be powered by something called mercury vortex engines and sound vibrations. I don't know too much about mercury vortex engines, but I do know about sound vibration. And there's other texts that even detail these propulsion systems and flight maneuvers. So there's kind of a whole kind of a culture around the Indian Vedas. Um, Now, let's talk again. Let's go back to the Egyptians again and the stonework. So the massive stones that were moved and filled with such precision were fitted with such precision that modern engineers, even today, could not replicate the feat. Okay? They've tried. They brought heavy equipment. They've done everything. They could not do it. They could not make the Great Pyramids. It won't happen, can't happen. Well, it could happen someday, but it hasn't up to this point. Legends have it that the sound is being used to levitate stone. Okay, the Tibetan monks also did this. There was, of course, all these anecdotes that explorers would watch the monks using chants and drums to levitate heavy stones. Okay. I personally, when I lived in New Mexico, I saw a man with a Peruvian flute levitate a slab of stone, which was probably about one, I'm guessing, kind of 1 foot by 1 foot by a couple inches, which is still a pretty heavy piece of stone. It was a slate stone, if I remember correctly, and he levitated that using a flute. It was pretty amazing, and he levitated it, I'm going to say, at least probably 9 to 10 inches off the ground. And he kept it there for probably 10 to 15 seconds. And he was able to levitate it back, back to the ground without it falling. It wasn't, it was pretty cool. It was very cool. And there was no doubt in my mind what I saw was absolutely correct. It was that. So modern experiments in magnetic levitation, which is, I think it's called something like maglev, and rotating magnetic fields have been shown that it's possible to counteract gravity using high-speed rotation and what they call magnetic coupling. Interesting, these principles echo ancient descriptions of spinning disks, rotating energy fields, and vortexes used in sacred rituals. So again, let's go back. Ancients didn't separate science from spirit. Their knowledge systems were intuitive and observational, deep connection to nature. While modern science demands empirical proof, ancient knowledge relied on uh, exponential understanding and symbolic language. Okay? If possible, ancient cultures access knowledge through altered states, okay, of consciousness. Either they did it through meditation, to a trance, or maybe even on substances, drugs, I guess we'll say, okay? Um, so this kind of allowed them to perceive energetic patterns uh, with the energetic patterns that were invisible, okay, to the naked eye. These insights may have been encoded in myths, symbols, and architectural rather than in equations. Okay? So rather than dismissing these traditions as primitive, we might consider them as alternates to our present day knowing. Um, so quantum physics, consciousness studies, and ancient metaphysicals basically is opening new doors to understanding of forces like magnetism and gravity, not just as a physical phenomenon, but as an expression of deeper cosmic laws. Okay? So while it's the magnetic alignment of sacred sites, the vibrational power of chance, or the mythical flying machines of ancient texts, there is a tantalizing suggestion that our ancestors may know more than we give them credit for. And I believe that to be true. Maybe they aren't just building monuments. Now, we realize that they built Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids, and all kinds of other things around the world, okay? But maybe they were building these machines of energy, consciousness, and cosmic resonance. So let's consider all that. I think it's important. It's important to look to the past to see our future. So, anyways, with that said, happy trails until we meet again. Bye bye.